though, in pounds, its market cap is £31.5 billion. Trades on a price-to-earnings ratio of 16.2. The dividend yield appears to be about 1%. Yeah, let's show the chart because it's a 5-year picture which doesn't look as rosy as those US ones.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, take it away.
This has been something of a laggard, Paul. You know, the trading update we had, or the results we had the other day, actually were quite good. Not bad at all. Investment banking has been the main laggard in this whole one. As you rightly say, they've been streamlining the operation, getting rid of Africa, having been there for 120 years. Only time will tell whether that was a clever move or not. I think you know, there's quite a lot of optimism out there on Barclays, looking purely at the operational side. And I can understand why that's the situation. However, I think a lot of the analysis misses the potential problem still lurking there in terms of legacy issues, further litigation coming through. For example, the lady who organised the deal in 2008 that allowed Barclays to escape the clutches of the British taxpayer, whereby they got to deal with the Qataris.
Yes.
That is now being investigated by the
So at that time, when
authorities.
all hell was breaking loose, the banks were undercapitalized, the Qataris stepped up and said, okay, we'll take a further, I don't know what it was, 5 or 10% of stake in Barclays at that price. What, so there was an allegation that there was some irregularities related to that?
Huge allegation. The suggestion was that Barclays actually provided the funding for the Qataris to invest in their own operation. So this is being investigated by the Serious Fraud Office in the UK. Contingent with that, Amanda Staveley, the lady to whom I referred, is doing a civil action. She's claiming that now over £1 billion in compensation because she's saying she didn't get paid for this.
I see. So she was an employee at the time.
Well, no, not an employee. She's got her own company called PCP Ventures, and that is going for it. She's now in the High Court. That's going to be laid down, I think, for January next year. But over and above that, former directors of Barclays, including the former CEO, a guy called John Varley, and 3 of his co-directors, are now facing potential jail term. Their case is laid down for January 2019, a year after.
And what is that about
statement.
in relation to decisions taken at the time?
Exactly. That's about actual fraud and corruption relating to this whole thing. So Barclays, in terms of litigation and legacy issues, whilst they may not, they may come out of this with not having to pay too much in the way of fines, because it is a legacy issue. We just have to wait and see.
Because you'd imagine that the British regulatory authorities would want to penalise people if there was wrongdoing, but they also wouldn't want to seriously compromise one of their preeminent financial institutions because they, you know, are very important to that economy at a tricky time.
No, you're quite right. So look, we have to wait and see what happens with that. Over and above that, the CEO, a fellow called James E. Stalley, known to his buddies as Jess.
He's an ex-JP Morgan guy, fellow. Because after the crisis, they appointed Anthony Jenkins, who was sort of a safe pair of hands. He didn't do too much, but unfortunately the share price also didn't do too much. So he was booted and replaced with somebody a bit more gung-ho, American-style, you know, investment banker, the idea being that they must rejuvenate their position in that market. But he himself has put a few feet in his mouth as he's gone along. Huh?
Well, most recently he tried to unmask a, excuse me, a whistleblower. Now, look, having been in a Barclays subsidiary, I know you just don't do that kind of thing. I mean, the compliance is so heavy.
I mean, you're supposed to encourage your lower-level organizational members to come up with these things.
And I would say that anyone other than the CEO would have been fired instantly for doing this sort of thing. So he tried it once and then came back for a second bite at the cherry, having been told by the compliance people, no, don't do this. But he brought his own guys and his own IT guys. He was now being censured, not just by Barclays, but by the authorities in the UK. And it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that those regulatory authorities may take such a dim view of this that he has to be fired. We wait and see.
He also got nabbed in a sort of a scammy thing where somebody created a Gmail address that looked like it was the chairman and sent him and had a few interactions with him, where he then responded until it dawned on him this wasn't actually his chairman, this was somebody. And then, of course, those emails were released, making him look like an absolute fool because some of the interactions were somewhat laughable.
So these are the extraneous factors with which investors
but what about
and potential investors have to...
So the Brexit issue, I mean, the UK, to be fair, the economy has been pretty strong, and one gets the sense that it's a big enough economy to do fine, even if... I mean, for Barclays, is there a risk that it has some business downside if more financial flows start going through Frankfurt because of Brexit?
Well, we saw the comments made by Lloyd Blankfein the other day at Goldman's. He was saying, I like Frankfurt, I'm getting more used to it because that's what's going to happen after Brexit.
Yeah.
On the other hand, of course, UBS the other day, over the weekend, said that they're not going to be seeing the big outflow of people.
They're going to keep back office people or mid office people in London.
But generally speaking, if you look at what the UK economy in terms of financial services, it's a huge component.
Yeah.
It can't be good, Brexit overall. So, look, I don't think Barclays is going to be hit any worse than most, but it's not a good feature.
So all things considered, there's more than enough clouds on the horizon to take the view, particularly given that the share price hasn't exactly been rocking and rolling, just to say, listen, as far as this is concerned, probably a not hot, keep it a wait and see.
Yeah, it's not hot. I think we have to wait and see what happens on the litigation front. And that could take a while, and I think it could serve to dampen the share price.
As we always tell people on the show, remember, the earnings are what the earnings are, and the share price is what it is, but it's the sentiment about the relationship between those two that creates excess or depresses returns in the market, you know.
Exactly.
Until such time as there's a positive optimism and the price-to-earnings ratio starts to rise and the animal spirits start to take their way, then one can't really get too excited. So not hot on that one.